Hello everybody and welcome to the table. Today we're taking a look at a knife from this brand called Win Plus, and the draw here is the very interesting way in which they appear to have utilized the Axis lock on this knife. So let's go ahead and do an unboxing real quick and see what we have here. So Win Plus box, specs on the back, we can just check this out real quick. Brand Win Plus, the product name is just called folding knife. Blade material is D2 steel. Okay, let's open her up. All right, looks like we have a little cloth here, a cleaning cloth and a Torx tool. That's kind of cool. So that's included. And the knife itself. So let's check this out. So this is the Win Plus. So what we have right here, this knife does look kind of dirty. Here we go, little cleaning cloth. Just gonna give it a wipe down, and then we'll check out what we have here. Wow, there's a lot of oil on this knife. That's crazy. Okay, so this is the Win Plus. Let me put this out here. Win Plus folding knife utilizing an Axis style lock mechanism. Now, a lot of companies use the Axis lock, whether they call it that, the Able lock, the Bold lock, the Duralock, very popular opening mechanism now. And this one right here, it looks a little bit different. So I'm actually curious to see if it functions like an Axis lock or not. So let's go ahead and open her. So knife opens up. Let's see if this opens. We pull it upward. Okay. Interesting. So flip it open. All right. So that Axis lock mechanism, I'm calling it that, but let's take a look inside there and check out how does that work. Interesting. It appears to function differently than an Axis lock does, but it looks so visually similar, except for the fact that rather than being horizontal on the handle, it's vertical. And so this knife I picked up from Amazon, and this is very much a budget knife. You can get this for about $20. This variant right here has Desert micarta, which, yeah, I guess that feels like micarta there. It's just kind of an interesting texture to it, as you can see. Deep carry pocket clip, it looks like, to be reversible. And they even have a filler tab there that's blue. On the pivot, we see that brand name again, Win Plus. Not really a fan of this font. It's like the default font that Chinese companies use when they're writing in English. Very unattractive, but not a huge deal. We have thumb studs. We have flipper tab. Interesting. So super interesting action. And it's going against all of my instincts. My instincts want to pull back on the Axis lock, but obviously that isn't going to work. Looks like the knife does run on bearings. So it does open smoothly, but interesting, like right here at the end of travel, there's kind of like a detent to get over. So I'm wondering where that resistance is coming from. Looks interesting because we can see there's a pillar right here, and right here there's some sort of, I don't know if that's a guide or what is that? How is that working? It's almost like a detent, like a spring or something. Wow, so it definitely looks like a Axis lock, but this is not an Axis lock mechanism in there. Like you can see right through it, it goes, completely flow through design. So these two pegs are connected, so you can still only operate it with one side if you want, but they are connected across the scales. I wonder how they do that. That's interesting. This one is definitely worth taking apart to take a look at it, but I'm afraid I may not get it back together again. So for those of you who want to know specs, let's go ahead and take a look at those. Let me get the ruler and the scale out. All right, so let's take a look at the knife on the scale here. So we are weighing in at 4.08 ounces. So it's not a super heavyweight knife, but I mean, it has steel liners in it and everything. So it is, full construction. So 4-ounce knife in weight. And let's take a look at the length. So in terms of blade length here, we're running about close to 3.5 inches long. Overall length is about 7 3/4 inches. So this is a full-size everyday carry knife. It's not small by any means. Here on the blade, we just have the model number here, the 3442 satin finish. I don't see any blade steel markings, but actually, no, right here on the flipper tab. Take a look at that right there, D2 steel. So very minimalist design. We really only have the decorative pivot and those few markings on the blade. So interesting. I really want to know how that works, because you can see it's like there's a spring in there, but it doesn't feel like an assisted action at all. You know, you can see it runs freely on bearings. It might have like a minor spring assist. Yeah, I think that is it. Like, you just barely have to push it out and the spring kind of takes over. It is not like an assisted opener, because those generally have a very strong action, but this is more of just a really mildly gentle push out of the blade. And I think that's what this little mechanism in here must be for, because I can see there's kind of a detent popping out of the handles on the liners in there. And I think that is giving it a little bit of a push when you open it. Because normally in folding knives, when you close it and there's resistance like this, it means there's a spring somewhere in here helping you out. So that might just be a consequence of putting this axis style lock here in this vertical position as opposed to a traditional horizontal position. But it's really interesting to see a company like this, you know, essentially like a no-name Chinese company, being the ones to really innovate and create, in my opinion, this, I've never seen a knife with a lock like this. So if you have before, feel free to drop a comment. Let me know. I'm curious if this is an entirely new lock design, or if this is something that's been on the market and is just being knocked off. That is something that I'm really curious about. So really cool knife here. Don't know what else much to say about it. Actually, let's do one real quick size comparison to give you an idea. Of course, the excellent axis lock knife right here. This is the Kershaw Iridium. So let's just put those side by side here, and you can get an idea of the overall size. So very similar in both size and weight. Both of these knives are D2 steel. Here we can see the traditional axis lock, or I think they call it the Duralock with Kershaw mechanism. And here we have this very unique take on the axis lock. And again, I call it that, but it clearly is not an axis lock in function. It's really an interesting design. It's something you really have to get used to in terms of muscle memory, in terms of actuating the lock. No blade play. Interesting design though. So I literally just bought this knife because I was curious about how this lock mechanism functions. So this is going to require a little bit more investigation on my part. But the good news is, if you want this knife to check out for yourself, it's literally like 20 bucks on Amazon. So very inexpensive budget folding knife. So I will drop a link in the description if you want to pick one up. I have nothing to gain from this, but it's just kind of a cool looking design here. So this is, I wish I could call it something, but this is just a knife from Win Plus. The 3442, and this is the Desert Micarta. They have it in a couple other colors too, like black and green, I think, but this one looks pretty good in my opinion. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment below. This has been an interesting unboxing, and I don't even normally do unboxings because I usually know what I'm getting, but here I had no clue what that was going to be in the box. So our knockoff Axis knife here. Hope you enjoyed watching, everybody. See you later and have a nice day. Bye-bye.